Okay, so I'm back. I've completed installing the SolidStatePowerBox, the Compufire Series regulator, and my solenoid. You know, the first item I'd draw your attention to is for the three main wires that will come directly out of the SolidStatePowerBox. There's two primaries. The first primary here is the battery connection, and the way we've done that, which is actually pretty clean, is to connect the this 14 gauge with inline fuse directly to the back post on the solenoid, the starter solenoid. That gives access to the battery, because coming through the back here will be an 8 gauge, I believe it's an 8 gauge stock primary wire from the positive post of the battery. So that makes it very convenient. We don't have to, you know, run through here and go over to the battery and clutter up the battery anymore. You know, if you're really going to want to keep this, you know, that cable clean, and make sure that you've got some dielectric grease here on this post and on the battery post as well. The second primary wire is this red wire that's also directly connected to this battery cable right here inside of the power box. It connects to the positive rectifier regulator output, and for the Compufire, that means there's a 12 gauge wire coming out of the rectifier, but I've got a 14 gauge on the SolidStatePowerBox, so I just connected them both here in the middle. You basically, you know, strip back the wire on both, intertwine the wires, twist it into a tight, you know, a tight little mesh, and then solder it. Make sure you put your heat shrink on there first, and you get a nice joint that's not going to corrode and should give a long service life. The third connection that the power box has as far as discrete wires is a ground. That's the ground for this the SolidStatePowerBox. It's not, you know, there's typically only a few tens of milliamps, enough for the LEDs, and the 2 milliamps that I've mentioned in the past. The SolidStatePowerBox uses to control the power, and also the logic for the switching characteristics that it has. So that ground wire is coming up to our single point ground. The single point ground, you know, in this case, in the past I've recommended using one of the mounting bolts for the RR. You can see here that they're pretty well enclosed for this Compufire. So this bolt, this upper left-hand bolt of the diagonal tab, is pretty well open, and so it provides a nice place for this mounting bolt. The mounting bolt that we're going to use for the single point ground. So from the single point ground, we have a wire that's going to go to the battery. This will go to the negative side of the battery. We'll have another one that will run to somewhere on the frame. You know, I mounted onto one of my bolts that holds the cross member that for the back of the seat. An additional wire will be coming from the stock ring lug for the black-white ground wire from the harness. It normally comes to one of the mounting bolts on the solenoid, or it can be mounted, I believe, on one of the bolts of the. Actually, I think it comes to the mounting bolt on the solenoid, but we'll just run it right up here. I mean, you could leave it there, but then you're relying on this connection and the current through the you know, through the back plate, and then coming back up to, you know, through the bolt that is attaching all the ring lugs for the single point ground. If you just put it right there, and you've got the faces of the ring lugs to conduct between each other with a little bit of dielectric grease, you're not going to end up having to worry about anything there for some time to come. That basically takes care of our grounding. The power we've dealt with, it's direct connection to battery in the RR. The other thing you see here is a weather pack connector for the three-phase from the stator. And the only other thing then is our 10-pin Molex, which was going to be basically attached to the harness. for all the connections, you know, the 5-channel out of power we've been talking about for the battery out, the signal, ignition, headlamp, and then the accessory, and then the 4 switches, ignition, kill, start, and accessory. And one of those switches is the start button, and that's, you know, this wire here, which I've basically added a pigtail coming off of the solenoid, and that'll be connecting in here. So I'll just go ahead and stick this connector back in and kind of tuck this wire up underneath there, and you kind of see what this is going to look like. So it's a you know, basically a pretty much self-contained unit. The only connections to the harness are the low current, relatively low current, nothing really over 5 amps, although it can peak to 10, and that's what they're all rated for. The solenoid connections, some grounds, along with the ground from the harness, and your start button, your you know, for the solenoid. You'll have the battery connection coming in. There'll be another large cable here going to the starter, and that's about it. So what we've done is really completely isolated the charging system from the harness, other than being on the output of the solid-state power box. So any currents and voltages that are associated with the higher current of the power generation is really not having to go through the harness, and that's one of the things that really relieves a lot of the anxiety you might say you have with a older harness of trying to chase down you know, bad corrosion and, you know, bad connections and bad corrosion. And so that solves a lot of our problems, along with getting all the benefits that the solid-state power box has in terms of safe power, and that all of these power signals that are coming out here, you can ground them indiscriminately, literally, and the box will self-protect itself until you remove those grounds. You know, the fuse box here, yes, we are adding this fuse box, but that's really mandatory, because if this regulator were to short out, and you know, nobody can control that, the battery without this, and this direct connection to the battery, from the battery to the battery back here to the regulator, you'd have a short condition, and that you could fry the harness and the bike. So that really is mandatory. It also provides protection for the solid-state, the power box too, in that if for some reason, and it's highly unlikely, because it's not only, there are internal fuses in this, they're non-replaceable, but in the event that there is a failure, it is protected to not do anything. So this is a doubly redundant fused, and really not to protect the box so much, but in case of the regulator fails. So anyhow, that's kind of the completion of the power and grounding interconnects. The next video we're going to have is how to find and connect these wires on the 10-pin Molex. Okay? Well, thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.